What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Wager Alarm live stream. My name's Howard Bender. With me, of course, Craig Mish. Time to get down and dirty with some NFC futures on wins totals here. We covered the AFC with our last live stream, and I think we did a real nice job picking and choosing through some of the best bets, some of the no bets, and some of the leans.
Sure.
Well, today it's all about the NFC. And Craig, you know what? But right before we started, you thought generally the NFC seems to be a little tougher to call.
It does. It does. By the way, before we get to the NFC, going back to the AFC, we are now 4 days removed from our last live stream on Tuesday, and I know we have a lot of people who watch all of them. Do you feel any better or worse about the Colts total today than you did on Tuesday? Because that was our hot button talk, and I noticed that after we were done, right at the time we were doing the live stream, news came out that it was like a high ankle sprain or something for Andrew Luck. So I just thought I would mention before we close out that book on the AFC, and certainly we can go back to it next week because we'll be here Tuesday and Friday. I don't know. Are you feeling any better or worse about that 10.5?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? I mean, I'm kind of I look at the under now and I think maybe that might be. Listen, Jacoby Brissett.
So
here's the problem: Frank Reich, the head coach, turned around today and was like obviously trying to deflect from some of the questions that he was obviously receiving. He was like, I'm not going to pick a week one starting quarterback until after the third week of the preseason. So that's going to give him another 2 weeks.
Right. We got to wait
to kind of delay it and to push it off. I don't like delaying it. I mean, please, what? Just say, you know what? Just tell everybody that for the first 2 weeks of the season, Jacoby Brissett is your starter. And then if Luck comes back, bonus.
Exactly. I mean, and then we'll talk about some of the teams here, and on Friday night tonight we have NFL preseason games, which are obviously interesting, and you have coaches even saying, and this is rare, they're saying that they're not going to play anybody again in week 2 of the NFL preseason. I mean, we are basically at the point where using any preseason data is almost impossible outside of week 3, and that's it. Coaches in the past, when you would look at indications in terms of both fantasy and gambling or anything else, you always knew week 1 was going to be almost nothing, and you knew week 4 was a 0. But what you could count on was week 2 seeing like a quarter or a quarter and a half or maybe a half, and then week 3 you got that dress rehearsal where you got the first quarter, the second quarter, then they come out for the third quarter, and then they stop. I don't think that you could look at the preseason at all. These teams right now, Howard, the way that it works is that once training camp ends, which it did earlier this week for a lot of teams, they scrimmage against each other during the day for like 3 or 4 days. They consider that more of a dress rehearsal than they do the actual preseason games. They don't want to risk injury. I think it's smart. We've gone so many years and so many times where guys have gotten hurt in these preseason games that have derailed their seasons. I think they're going the right way about it. But look, that being said, there is no question right now. And look, there are some, the Cowboys, we'll get into them a little bit. We talked about the Chargers, the Raiders not knowing where Brown is at. But when you lose the quarterback of your team and you're trying to navigate on a season win total, it is a pass. You can try to take a chance, and his name is Luck, and you can flip a coin and guess whether or not Andrew Luck's going to play game 1 or play game 2. But look, there's going to be better options for you, and that's what we're here to do on Friday night. And we'll begin here in the NFC.
Let's definitely do it. Let's break it down now. We'll do it alphabetically like we did the AFC. We'll give you some consistency here, right? It's all about consistency. So let's kick it off right now with everybody's favorite darling here. And you want to talk about somebody who says that he doesn't want to tip his hand in preseason, and that's Cliff Kingsbury of the Arizona Cardinals. He said he's going to take that Sean McVay train and not show any of his cards during the preseason. Whether or not that's fully true or not, we'll just have to wait and see what happens in week 3 for him. But nevertheless, here the Cardinals, the line that I see right now has it at 5.
Right.
Which should definitely be interesting here. They were last year, obviously a 3-win team, but they've gone with a complete coaching overhaul here. Cliff Kingsbury taking over Todd. Is Todd Bowles back as the defensive coordinator? Yeah, so he's working on the defense there. Talk to me here. Give me your thoughts on Arizona, because I'm still undecided.
Yeah, so the over-under is 5, and if you're going to bet the over, then you would have to lay minus 140. On our previous live stream, we talked about the Miami Dolphins having a 4.5, and so Arizona is the second closest one here at 5 to Miami. So most people believe, at least the prognosticators believe, that Arizona is the second worst team in the NFL going into the year. They were the worst team in the NFL last year. So it is kind of strange over the past few years. And, just kind of looking at data from first-year coaches to see how they performed in the NFL and then, putting that up against the win totals. Obviously, Wilkes was fired last year. Chip Kelly ended up going 2-14 in his first year. Vance Joseph won 5 games with the Broncos his first year. Second year, he's gone. Hugh Jackson won 1 game. Second year, third year, he's gone. But most head coaches, strangely enough, over the last few years have actually won 5 or more games. Kyle Shanahan won 6. McVay won 11. McDermott with the Bills won 9, and even Shermer last year won 5. So doesn't really point to one way or another, except for the number seems pretty low, even for a first-year head coach. Vegas had this total open at 5.5. In order for this to go to 6, they're going to have to be better on offense. They were dead last in the NFL, 14 points per game. I'm going to lean under here. Seattle, San Francisco, and the Rams. Arizona going against those teams 2 times apiece. At best, I think it's a 1-5 there. I mean, I don't see anything better than that. I don't know how you see it, but the number just kind of seems right. They play the Bengals. Certainly, they could beat them. But then again, Howard, the Bengals have to beat somebody too, and I'm sure they look at Arizona and say that's the one team we could beat. So it would be a lean on the under because I just don't see this team being 3 wins better than they were last year. I could certainly see 1 or 2. I think this goes down right to the last game of the season. So strictly just a lean for me on the under.
Yeah, I mean, with it being that close, I'm not that interested either. Not even a good enough bet on the under at plus 120.
Right.
So
the next one is interesting too. Atlanta at 8.5, and the Falcons historically, Howard, are just one of the most disappointing betting teams in the NFL. They just always look real good on paper and they let you down. We've gone through years of trying to figure out. Finally, last year was really the year that Julio Jones caught the touchdown passes along with the yards. You're always worried every time Julio Jones goes down if he's going to get up. Defensively, they seem to be okay. Their coach, without a doubt, is on the hot seat this year. There's no question about that. Maybe not number 1, but he's number 2. So I don't really know how I see this one because I do think the Saints are a better team. But it always seems like whenever Atlanta plays those tough teams within their division, Atlanta, when they play the Saints, when they play Carolina, and even Tampa Bay, they're always splitting those games. So the number kind of seems about right to me at 8.5. I don't know. Do you go over? Do you go under here? My inkling is probably to go under because I see them more as an 8-win team than I do a 10-win team. And I think that they could redo things a little bit. But, hey, look, the team has been better than they were under Mike Smith. That's for sure. So I don't know. Atlanta's going to have a hard time replacing the coach if they decide to fire him.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, I'm looking at their schedule as far as games that they have outside of their division, and possible wins coming against some teams here. 49ers an interesting one. Jaguars, right there, an interesting one.
They can split though. They can split those two, maybe.
Sure. Texans, Cardinals.
They'll probably split those two.
Let's see. Here's what I like, and I'll tell you what I like about the Atlanta Falcons right now is that, yeah, Quinn is definitely on the hot seat here. So what did he do? He went back in and he grabbed Dirk Cutter as his offensive coordinator. So Matt Ryan doesn't even have to learn a new system because Dirk Cutter was his offensive coordinator from 2012 to 2014 anyway. So right off the bat, we know what the scheme is. Ryan's played in it. Julio's played in it. You're not going to have to worry too much about these guys starting over from scratch. Sure. Second of all, a lot of people start trying to poke at Matt Ryan's splits, his home road splits, and what does he do outside of the dome? Well, I'll tell you what, 13 of the 16 games for the Atlanta Falcons this year are either in a dome or in really warm weather.
That's good.
So that right there kind of, it definitely intrigues me here. With what they've got going on. The offensive line, they're going to do a mix of zone and man blocking. I'm not really a big fan of the hybrid blocking scheme there. I wish they would just stick with a zone blocking scheme, but, whatever. I mean, Cutter does what he does. And this is going to be probably a very pass-heavy offense. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, Matty Ice. So I'm going to lean on the over here. Actually, I mean, they won 7-9 last year.
Yeah. So how many wins would you say? 9 or 10?
I'm going to go 9. Yeah. I mean,
okay. Yeah.
Ideally,
you could say 10. I mean, whatever. It's up to you.
No, I wish there wasn't a hook on this one here, so I could have the 8 and I could take the over and feel confident enough that I would get the push on there also if it didn't happen.
That's what's so great about the straight numbers.
Yeah. So. But I'll lean on the over here for Atlanta. I've got confidence in them.
All right. Carolina's total is 8, minus 120 on the over. The under is even money. Same division here. Carolina, I mean, I don't know what happened to them last year. They lost 6 games in a row at one point. Cam Newton didn't look like himself at all. They demoted their defensive coordinator, and then the offseason they promoted him back to the defensive coordinator. Very strange move there. Look, I think the Saints are better than Carolina. I think the Falcons are better than Carolina. I don't know. I don't see huge improvement on this team at all. And so it's kind of a one-man show for me. It's still like McCaffrey, and they're saying that they want to limit him a little bit more. I don't know. I understand how they can possibly do that. I'd probably feel a little bit better knowing that Cam Newton is healthier and their defense, if it's better than last year, which is still a huge question. I think they gave up like 40-something points to Pittsburgh in a game last year, which was a big surprise. So
that was a huge one. I think I started the Panthers defense that week in fantasy.
Out. Yeah, so I'm gonna go under here. I'm not a huge fan of Carolina and that ground and pound game that was so successful for them for so many years with D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart, Steve Smith. I mean, those are 3 really talented players. I don't have them anymore. Obviously if Kuechly plays, it gives them a chance to win, but that guy's 1 hit away from being out for the year, and their defense is horrible without him. We know that. So I'll go under 8.
Yeah, I would probably go on I'd lean on the under as well. Another no bet for me, only because I do see them possibly being roughly an 8-8 team.
Yeah, feels right. Bears, that was one of our good ones from last year. The Bears over 9 is minus 120. The under 9 is even. This one is a weird one for me, so I will have an opinion here. The Bears finished the NFL season better than any team in the NFL. They were 9-1. Vic Fangio is gone. They bring back Chuck Pagano. He was a horrible head coach, but he was a great defensive coordinator. So for me, Howard, it's just a little strange. Like, they seem like as good or better than they were last year. I don't think they are worse than they were. I mean, look, they moved all the way up to draft David Montgomery, and you never know what any player is going to be. But when a team invests that high a pick in a player like that and gets rid of a capable running back in Jordan Howard, I think they think this kid is going to be special. So could the Bears regress a little bit and go from 12 wins to 11 or 12 wins to 10? Sure. And guess what? If they go to 9, you're pushing anyway. So I'm going to go over on the Bears. I don't think they're losing. I don't think they're worse than a 9-7 team this year. Maybe there's something I'm missing, Howard. I don't know. You tell me. I see them as a 10-win team.
I see them as a 10-win team as well. I think, again, it's one of those things where everybody, I think, is really pushing up the Minnesota Vikings this year as far as their talent level goes. Maybe they just think that that's going to give the Bears a little bit more of an issue here. Obviously, the Packers in the division as well does that. But listen, I'm with you. Listen, I think Matt Nagy's offense, I believe in it. And I think Montgomery fits in beautifully, strong enough to push Tariq Cohen aside. Like, he can pass block, he can catch passes, he can take it between the tackles. He can deal with all the pre-snap movement that Nagy likes to throw in there. So I think Tariq Cohen actually kind of pulls back, and Montgomery does get that spotlight eventually here. I think it's going to come down to the fact of whether or not these receivers are going to be able to handle it. Allen Robinson coming back from injury, what's he going to do? Taylor Gabriel's a pipsqueak. Really tough to rely on him, and Anthony Miller with the rebuilt shoulder and all the
he's hurt too now.
Limitations of him. Yeah. So
but you know what?
That's kind of where it is.
You know what? For me, Howard, though, it's the best defense in the NFL.
Yes.
And even if they are like the Jaguars light in terms of defense, what they had that run of about 3 years where they were the best. Paint the worst case scenario for the Bears. It's like 9-7, and if that's the case, they're 1 win away from 10. So I'm going to go over there.
Yep.
All right. Dallas Cowboys. We talk about this on live streams, and I'll mention it a few times throughout the season just so you guys understand. By the way, their total is 9 at minus 120, and their under 9 is even. The 2 most bet teams in college and pro football are always the Cowboys and always Notre Dame. So you're never going to get good lines ever on those 2 teams. It's almost impossible. They would have to bomb. So a normal team that's not named the Dallas Cowboys with this kind of talent, Maybe their total is 8.5. Maybe it's even 9, but it's definitely minus 120. The odds makers know that Dallas is the most bet team in the NFL, and they can always push that number up, and people are still going to bet because they love the Cowboys. They're America's team. So that being said, with the numbers always inflated, let's take a look at their team a little bit. Scott Linehan was their offensive coordinator. It's now Kellen Moore. Jerry Jones is never afraid to put these guys with no experience in big spots. Kellen Moore is the coordinator with no experience whatsoever.
He's a puppet. He's just it's Jason Garrett's offense. He's calling the plays. Kellen Moore's just going to do whatever Jason Garrett tells him to do.
All right, so Zeke, we know we don't know what's going on with him. Last year, the Cowboys' defense was fantastic, 5th against the run, but they were 22nd in the league in scoring points. Out of conference, they got New England, the Rams, the Saints, and the Packers. And without Ezekiel Elliott, I cannot go over 9. I can't do it. Could they win 9 games? Sure, but I would have to lean toward the under on Dallas. And maybe they do get to 9 wins, and I go to the cage and I just get my money back for whatever I put on it. But I cannot go over on this team. They play the Redskins. I get it. They're not going to be good. The Giants probably won't be good either. I just can't do it. Without knowing Zeke is there, it's either a pass or an under for me.
Yeah. Well, what do you think happens with this line when Zeke reports? Do you think it goes up? Do you think they go to 9.5? You think they go to 10?
No, I think. I think that you'd probably have to lay up a little bit more juice. So, like the over 9. That's a great question. So the over 9 is minus 120 right now at the Westgate. Maybe it goes to like minus 140, 150. I don't know that they would move it up a half there. Okay. Because he doesn't have the same threat, I don't think. People at least don't feel like he has the same threat of a Melvin Gordon. But that's a good point, and I think the juice would certainly change. But again, Notre Dame, Dallas Cowboys, people go to Vegas just to bet on those teams. They don't know anything else. They've never bet, but they look at the board. Oh, Dallas Cowboys, sure, Just the way it happens.
Love it. All right. Well, listen, I'm with you. If Zeke reports, I'm on the over. Without Zeke, I'm on the under.
Yeah, it's too tough.
It's nothing that interests me. So let's move on to a more palatable team here in the Detroit Lions, because who doesn't love playing the under on the Detroit Lions?
6.5 on the over, minus 150, and the under 6.5 is plus 120. They did make a big move in the offseason. They got Trey Flowers from New England. And, of course, Matt Patricia was a defensive coordinator there, so good news for him. But I didn't think that the Lions were a really good team last year, and I don't think they'll be much better this year. I also think Green Bay has to be better than they were last year, 6-9-1. Bears are good. Vikings probably are good or great. We'll get to them in a minute. So I think the Lions are a 5-win team. I don't even think they're a 6-win team, so I'm going under. And I know it's plus 120, but if there is a plus on the board of all these teams, this is the one for me. So I'll go under.
The one for me as well. No doubt about it. Either no improvement or fall backwards a little bit for the 6 wins or fewer for this team. Easily. Everybody, you know what it is? Everybody loves Kerryon Johnson and Kenny Golladay. Everybody loves these two guys.
Not enough.
Right? Yeah. It's still Matthew Stafford under center, people. It's still Matthew Stafford.
And look, he's got a knack for coming back in games. We've seen that before. But look, and the other thing, too, that does factor in for me as well, and look, it's no knock on Bill Belichick, but his coaches that go into the NFL just never have any success. Like, the track record is incredible for failure. So, and think about that. If Matt Patricia went 2-14 this year, would he have the job next year? I don't think so. I think it'd be a 2-year and done. But anyway, we'll both go under 6.5. Here's an intriguing one. The Packers, man, tough one to call. Their over 9 is minus 130. They're a little bit of plus money on the under, which this is the lowest Packer number on an under with a plus that we've gotten since Aaron Rodgers came into the league. 6-9-1 last season, so they fired McCarthy. Their number opened up, Howard, back in April at 9.5, and it's moving down. It's moved toward 9. So maybe this is part of the division because the Bears are there and the Vikings are there. We also know that when Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, the Packers don't win, ever. So that's a huge factor there. The Packers go to Dallas and KC. So strictly a lean under for me, probably with 8 wins. But I don't know. Do you think that the coaching change will mean that much? And Rodgers now, Howard, at this point, I wouldn't say he's injury prone, but he's had a few seasons now where he's missed some games due to injury. So I think you have to factor that in too.
I think that definitely gets factored in. I think the biggest thing that we're looking at here with this team, and probably why I'm leaning on the under, is I think that there are going to be growing pains here with Matt LaFleur as the new head coach. Let's face it, Aaron Rodgers started off talking about the fact that he was going to be, he had complete autonomy and he was going to be calling plays in the huddle. And then Matt LaFleur pushed back and was like, oh, no, I'm going to be calling the plays. You can audible at times, but, and now all of a sudden here it is. I mean, we saw the power struggle between Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, and Rodgers won that one. And now we're looking at a potential power struggle here where it could be Rodgers versus LaFleur. I know that Matt LaFleur wants to do certain things. He wants to add in a little bit more, ground game there with Aaron Jones. If he and Rodgers are at odds with each other, if they're button heads the entire time, I think this team is going to struggle, and I think this team at best would be 8-8. If Rodgers and LaFleur are on the same page here, and LaFleur's like, go ahead, do what you got to do, then I think that incites Rodgers to do better things there and to take the over. So, I mean, I don't love this. I'm leaning on the under right now, only because when was the last time you heard a great feel-good story about how Aaron Rodgers got along with either A, a teammate, or B, a coach?
Never. Indeed the case, for sure. So a lean for under for me as well. Rams total is 10.5, plus 130 if you want to go with the over. The under is minus 150. Definitely a little head scratching here for sure, and it makes me nervous about the Rams season because when I look at the Rams, I see over, and I don't get how it's minus 150 on the under, but let's dive in. So they didn't have a first-round pick. They got Belichick in the Super Bowl, and maybe they feel like you can watch some video on the Rams and what they did last year and mimic that against Sean McVay, perhaps. Cooper Kupp is back. We don't know what Todd Gurley's going to be. I'm not convinced he's ever going to be what he was, but we'll see. I love their pickup of Eric Weddle. I thought that was a fantastic pickup, and wherever he goes, the defense is good, although they lost LaMarcus Joyner, they lost Ndamukong Suh, so I can't say their defense overall is going to be better, but I would have to say I would lean on the over, 10.5. They had such a fantastic regular season last year. I just can't ignore that. Are they 3 games worse than they were last year? I don't think so, so I would lean toward the over, 10.5.
Well, one of the things that's been going on right now that they've McVay's kind of tipped his hand a little bit in dealing with Jared Goff and Goff's ability to read defenses properly. And this is what we saw in the Super Bowl when they only put up 3 points on Belichick and the Patriots. Yes, it's Belichick. Yes, it's the Patriots. But other defensive coordinators are going to really, they're going to learn how to disguise coverage right now. They're going to show them one thing, they're going to do something else, because what happens is that once it gets to 15 seconds before once the play clock goes down to 15 seconds, then the helmet speakers turn off. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden, I mean, if a defense shows one thing and McVay calls the play into the helmet there of Jared Goff, and Goff gets up there and he sees the defense and he's piss poor at reading defenses, well, all of a sudden things start to change around a little bit, and maybe that happens. So
yeah, but how do you explain the first 16 games of last year though? They were so good offensively.
Because nobody was onto that. Nobody was realizing that. Nobody knew that Goff wasn't doing any of the defensive reading at all. It was all McVay, and he was calling the plays. They would go to the line and they would try and hike the ball as quickly as possible there, based on what they saw. Right. But if there's a disguise on the defenses there and they take too much time, it's a little nerve-wracking. I mean,
listen, interesting point, and some we'll have to watch for sure.
But I like the plus 130 here enough to take the over. Like, to not think
I think that there's value there. I do
too.
There's some value there. Yeah,
I do too.
All right, Minnesota, you pegged them last year. You didn't think they'd be as good as I thought. I thought that was a Super Bowl team. They didn't turn out that way, and now all of a sudden everyone says that last year was a fluke and they're going to the Super Bowl this year. So we'll see. Their over-under is 9, even money, minus 110 either way. So bizarre last season. I mean, I have to think that Dalvin Cook's injury really got to them, because I just can't figure it out unless Kirk Cousins is just not good, because you can make the case that his 2 guys on the outside are as good as any others in the NFL. I know they have a new offensive coordinator this season, so potentially that will help them. But look, I'll turn it over to you, because I'll go over on Minnesota again. I see too much talent on that team on the offense and defensive side of the ball, but they were a monster disappointment last year and arguably had a better quarterback. So tough, weird team for me in Minnesota.
I'm back on the Minnesota train. I will take the over on this
over
one
9.
Here. Yep, I will. And it's all about Gary Kubiak and Rick Dennison right off the bat. It doesn't matter that Kevin Stefanski is the offensive coordinator, because that dude, he's also a puppet. Gary Kubiak's calling the shots here. Rick Dennison working off of that ground game and that offensive line. I mean, think about it. Remember all those backs in Denver, like Ruben Drones.
Oh yeah, Mike Anderson,
Olandis Gary, right? Who was the guy controlling the ground game over there and working that offensive line? That would be Rick Dennison. And that's what I'm looking at here. Everywhere Dennison goes, the ground game immediately gets a nice boost. Kubiak knows it. Kubiak loves it. Minnesota, not stupid. Once Kubiak turned down that deal over in the what was it? Was it the Texans that offered it to him? I think it was Houston. It was supposed to be he was supposed to go to Houston. Last minute turned around. Oh no, it was Denver. He was supposed to go to Denver. And at last minute he turned it down. Minnesota immediately swooped in, scooped him up. I think the ground game is going to be fantastic. Dalvin Cook, I'm all in on as far as like a high-end running back. But as insurance, they did draft Alexander Mattison out of Boise State, and I love this kid. I love what this kid brings to the table. So whether it's Cook, whether it's Mattison, I love the ground game here. Cousins now with this offensive scheme that Kubiak is designing. Stefanski's overseeing some of the passing work here, which is totally cool by me. Sure. So Diggs, Thielen, they bring in Kyle Rudolph again. They draft Irv Smith early in the draft there. So I like the weaponry. I like the coaching. I'm in on Minnesota.
It sounds like it's the coaching, though, for you, because this is more or less the same team as last year. I mean, Madison's the only name you mentioned that's different. So it's more or less coaching, then, in your opinion.
Irv Smith. It is. It's the coaching.
They still have Kyle Rudolph there, too.
The coaching. It's the system. Kyle Rudolph will get traded to the Patriots by like week 5 or 6.
All right, so we're both over on that. The New Orleans Saints total is 10.5, over 10.5 plus 140, under 10.5 minus 160. The Saints are one of the most bet teams to win the Super Bowl this year, Howard. So take that take that for what it means. A lot of people think that they are certainly going to be there. Ingram is gone, of course. He was a stabilizing force. Alvin Kamara is there, along with the guy from the Saints, right? Latavius Murray is there as well. They'll probably have to establish some sort of second wide receiver this year also. But, look, their total is I guess, it's the highest on the board. New England is higher, but New Orleans is one of the highest on the board. But if going under 10.5, you got to risk a lot. So, look, they play in a division that's certainly winnable. But, again, as I mentioned before, historically, no matter what happens with the Saints, whether they are good, bad, or ugly, they end up splitting those games in the division. Tampa Bay will end up beating them one game. Atlanta ends up beating them in New Orleans. New Orleans goes to Atlanta and beats them there. So, for me, I would lean toward the under a little bit, 10.5. But it is kind of interesting to me, so many tickets being put on them to win the Super Bowl. Yeah,
it's a no bet for me. I'm not going to touch it with the 10.5 mark there. I don't know who that second receiver is. Who's it going to be? Keith Kirkwood, Ted Ginn. I mean, this is not a wide receiving core that really enthralls me. I know they brought in Jared Cook, and they've been lacking a tight end since they got rid of Jimmy Graham. I don't necessarily know if that's the difference maker here. I think you're taking a step down going from Mark Ingram to Latavius Murray. And if that means that it's a heavier workload for Alvin Kamara, well, that's going to tire him out at the tail end of last year, which is exactly what we saw. It's still a run-first scheme here in New Orleans, and they've made those adjustments for Drew Brees. I mean, I like the team, but it really would it surprise me to see them go 10-6? No. Would it surprise me to see them go 11-5? No, not at all. I don't like the money line enough on the under to even entertain that. Not at minus 160.
Yeah, this is where you shop it and see if you can get a 10 and get a plus 120 or plus 130 and take your chance there. But more or less a pass for me, too, on that one. The Giants are up next. They have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL, 29th overall. It's plus money on the over. It's not a popular pick. A lot of people think that they're going to be terrible. I think they have the best running back in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I think Daniel Jones has a chance to be good. I'm really not concerned with their wide receivers. I think that at the end of the season, Ingram ends up either the best or second best tight end. Their defense is pretty good. They play in a division where they'll face Dallas twice. They will need to split. They play Washington twice. I don't think that they're that formidable. Their out-of-conference schedule isn't that bad. I think worst-case scenario, the Giants go 6-10. I'm willing to take a shot on the over here.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it's plus 125 on the over. I'm definitely in on that as well. I'm not bullish on the wide receivers, but then again, I turned around. I made the comparison the other day, back when Mark Bavaro was the number one target for the Giants in the 80s. It's no different than what we saw with George Kittle last year. You can have a 1,000-yard receiver at tight end, give him anywhere from 6 to 8 touchdown catches, and that's your leading receiver. That's your number one target. That's fine. Yeah. Sterling Shepard can hang out on the side. It doesn't bother me at all. Golden Tate, let him just move the chains. Yeah. So I like the over on this one too.
Yeah, and again, a very easy schedule on paper. Which doesn't always mean anything, of course, at the end of the season. But
no, but still,
it does not take a lot for the Giants to go 7-9. It's like a 2-win improvement. So I don't have a huge issue with that one, and it's plus money. And again, when you're doing a lot of these totals, it's not always about how good or bad the team is. It's about where the value is, and I think the value is definitely on the Giants here.
Yeah.
Philadelphia's over under is 10, and over on the 10 is minus 140. They're the clear favorite to win the NFC East. They had a disappointing year last year. They rallied late, as everybody knows. Their under 10 is plus 120. The Eagles always kind of do things with moving parts. And, of course, having Carson Wentz is just a huge, huge factor for them without a doubt. Their running game, they'll be clearly counting on a rookie to step up at this point, wide receiver-wise. Having a hard time really believing Jeffrey could stay healthy. And then Aguilar, what has he been? So defense will carry this team again, probably, Howard, if it's going to get above 10 wins. I would say on this one it's probably a complete pass for me because I think the number looks right here. I think they're a 10-win team.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I do like some of the weaponry that they brought in to complement Jeffrey Aguilar. You've got Deshaun Jackson back now. You've got Zach Ertz, and you got another year of Dallas Goedert under the belt for a 2 tight end set. So I don't mind that at all. I do agree with you about them on the defensive side of the ball. 10 wins does seem about right for me as well, and I'll pass, and I'll move on to say, how about those 49ers? Give me the under.
Wow, under. I was going to say over on San Francisco.
They're winning 5 more games than last year. Why? Well, because Jimmy Grapes is back?
Well, when a quarterback is out, I'm willing to take that shot. I would never do it without. But, yeah, I feel like I thought the 49ers were a 9 or 10-win team last year, and he got hurt. And I think that, look, it was a horrible season for them, without a doubt. They had to shuffle through like 8 running backs. Jeff Wilson, Mostert. I never even heard of those guys going into last year, and they did very well. But if Garoppolo played, would we have seen George Kittle do what he did? I'm not sure that we would have seen that. They really emerged with Mullins there as the so again, if you have an injury to your quarterback, you put Mullins in, and I think you're okay. So I'll go over the 8 with. We'll probably just see this differently. I'll go over the 8 with San Francisco here. Look, I'm concerned with the running backs, sure, and like all of a sudden the world is like saying, "Oh, Tevin Coleman," and they're in love with him. Yeah, like 5 years ago maybe, but it's not. I don't think he's the same guy as he was when he was with Atlanta. So
no, he's not. But I don't mind Tevin Coleman only because he knows Shanahan's system. And Shanahan was the guy who did what he did for Coleman in Atlanta. So now
is he a featured back though? Featured back in Atlanta?
No, he wasn't. No, he was the secondary. He was the complimentary back to Devonta Freeman.
Do you think how many carries per game if you had to guess for the whole season?
I think he could touch the ball 15 times.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah,
I think 15 times. I'm not going to say that he's a 20 touch back. They're gonna bring in Matt Breida in there if Jerick McKinnon ever does get healthy. Again, for me, it's a lot on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that the win total is that high because they picked up Dee Ford, because they drafted Nick Bosa, and I think that everybody thinks that that's what's really going to settle it in for them. I'm really kind of worried about their secondary, and I think that there are teams that are going to burn them deep. I don't think Jason Verrett never stays healthy. Akella Witherspoon is like, as far as a cover corner goes. Richard Sherman's not getting any younger.
No.
Still doing those Oberto beef jerky ads for crying.
All right, so we see this a little bit differently, but that's what makes it fun. So you'll go under, I'll go over. Okay, look, you were the Seattle whisperer last year. I didn't think they'd be good at all, and now they're trending over on the 8.5 minus 120. The under is about even money here. Look, I don't know how Seattle did it. I thought Pete Carroll should have been the coach of the year last year, and now here they are coming back for another season.
I told you how they did it.
Okay, well, look. Okay, but now they don't have their best defensive player and their best offensive. Well, Russell was the best offensive player, but their best defensive player is gone, and their best offensive player from in the years that wasn't named Wilson is gone too. So do they go over again this year?
Who?
Baldwin.
Oh yeah, well,
Baldwin was great for them.
He was.
He was
He's a
great
good, solid possession receiver for them. No doubt about it. What's the line on these guys now? 8.5.
Yeah, 8.5. I mean,
Ooh.
I suppose if you're going under on San Francisco, you're going over on Seattle, right? Does that kind of match up? Yeah.
Listen, I really do.
And you were leaning under on the Saints too, right? Under 10.5. Oh no, wait, they're not in the same division. We went over on the Rams,
yes.
Right? Yeah, so I don't think that you could go both over on San Fran and Seattle. I mean, I guess you could.
I can do whatever I want, Craig. This is a
all right. Goodbye. I'm done.
No, listen. I like Seattle. I will say that they're at least a 9-win team here. I'd be happy to do that. Chris Carson, I think, is one of the more underrated backs. Dude was like 7th overall in yards after contact last season. Now he's going to be given that job. Added passes to him. They've already pulled back on Rashad Penny. I think he's a highly underrated guy, and we saw this last year. It was like week 3 when all of a sudden the team was like, wait a minute, we're not a pass-first team. We shouldn't be a pass-first team. Let's run the ball. And all of a sudden you saw Chris Carson getting like 30 touches a game.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So
that's the one team with running backs that they keep shuffling them in and out, and you don't know who the guy is going to be there.
They found it with Carson last year. They're
all right, we'll see.
With Carson this year.
They drafted Petty for nothing?
They're going to – what's that? No. They're going to split – they're going to split it. 2/3 Carson, 1/3 Penny.
All right.
I think they're going to be able to do that. I think, that's kind of what they're leaning towards. I don't like the receiving core here. Obviously, Tyler Lockett is decent. I love Russell Wilson, and
he's great.
I think he's very happy over there. His wife Sierra gave him permission to re-sign a long-term deal and not go to the Giants. Right? Yes. Thank you, Sierra. Appreciate that.
Ciara, I think it is, by the way. You're thinking of Ruben Sierra.
Don't talk to me.
We got one more. Can we please finish this out? I actually have a bet on one of these. Okay.
Oh, who is it?
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Opportunity knocking.
Are they going 0-16 or what?
No, they're not going 0-16. The Bucs.
1-15.
No.
2-14.
No, I think they'll be better than that.
They're going to be bad, man. They're going to be bad.
They're not going to be good. But
they're not going to be good.
I think they're a 4 or 5 win team. Not below that.
I don't think so. The quarterback.
Really, no faith in Bruce Arians, huh?
Nope, no faith in the quarterback.
You hate Jameis.
I don't hate Jameis. I just think that he just will not do what is going to be asked of him. I just don't think so. I see a lot of interceptions, a lot of bombs. Arians was the mad bomber. Whether he was with Arizona or he was with Pittsburgh, you cannot be the bad bomber with Jameis Winston. We hear stories about he's going to be checking down more. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. Their running backs are not good. Jason Pierre-Paul's probably out for the year. Their defense last year at 72% completion rate. That was the highest of the NFL by far. Tampa Bay, I'm going under 6.5. I don't think they win 6. I don't think they win 5. I think Tampa Bay ends up winning 2 or 3 games to get the number 1 pick in the draft or number 2 pick in the draft, and then Winston is gone. That's my opinion. Going under.
I'm not going to dispute that. I like the under on this call also.
Hard to dispute it. It just seems like it would require a lot for Tampa Bay to be like a 7 or 8 win team.
Well, Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones would both have to learn how to be a professional running back.
I mean, how do they go into this year with that again after last year? Like, I don't know. I don't get it. Look, I like Godwin like everybody else. Honestly, Evans is as good as any receiver in the NFL, but he's not young anymore. He's been in the league for a few years. And their tight ends, everyone loves O.J. Howard. He's been hurt. I don't know. Their defense is just not very good. I don't see a path to 7 wins for Tampa Bay. I don't see it. And I think, honestly, in Tampa Bay's heart of hearts, if Bruce Arians is committed and he's going to be there, let's say 3 years maximum, because he's getting older, no question. Wouldn't it be the right thing to do for Tampa Bay to only win 2 or 3 games and go grab Tua or go grab Herbert or one of these other quarterbacks and kind of start things over? I don't think Winston is the answer. Winston's going to be in the NFL for a long time, Howard, but it's going to be, I think, as a backup quarterback in the NFL. And honestly, we talk about coaches on the hot seat in terms of possibly being fired, and we'll get to that one coming up next. But I will say this. If there's quarterbacks that are most likely to be replaced, For sure, Joe Flacco's up there without a doubt, and I get it, no question. Andy Dalton's up there too, but I put Winston right up there with those other two guys as far as being replaced. And there was a reason he was replaced twice last year in the NFL by Fitzpatrick. So I'm going to go under there. And then our final one is Washington, and I'm going to go under here as well. 6 wins? How are the Redskins going to win 6 games? Gruden is the favorite, by the way, on all the websites to be the first coach fired. So if that is indeed the case, and their total is 6, that does not add up. Washington's schedule, impossible, toughest in the NFL. And they have to beat the Giants at least once. At Miami, winnable game for them. They got to win that one. They got to beat Buffalo, and they got to win 2 division games. That only gets them to 5. I think that this is – I think that Washington may end up worse than Arizona this season. So for me, like we talked about, Miami, Cincinnati, I don't like Houston, Washington, and Tampa Bay. Those are like the 5 teams I think that end up with the worst records in the league. But certainly I could see Washington winning 3 or 4 games. They have this weird mystique home field advantage where they're able to pull out games every once in a while. But worst case scenario, Howard, you're pushing on this 6. You're not losing.
Yeah, I'm zero interest in doing anything but the under on this one. Zero interest. It's a terrible team. It's a terrible team. There's nothing else that you can say about it. They are in transition here. And
honest question. And look, I play fantasy football, and I consider myself among the community. Maybe not at the top, but certainly, I win leagues like everybody else. Who are the Redskins receivers? Tell me.
I mean, their names are Josh Doxson, Trey Quinn.
How is this possible? How is it? I mean, I could go around the league. I could give you the receivers of every team. The left guy on the left, and the guy on the right. Who are Washington's receivers?
I just gave you 2 of them.
And who's their quarterback?
Oh, well, it'll start off as Case Keenum, but as soon as Dan Snyder gets his way, then it switches over to Dwayne Haskins. Dude, this team is terrible.
Take me out to dinner. Bet the under and take me out to dinner on this one.
All right. Well, that's what we're going to do. Where are we going to go? You want to go to Prime 112?
I already owe you one, I think.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, for the Yelich, right?
Yes, you do.
I do.
Yes, you do. I think I'm going to have to come out there.
Well, supposedly I may go to the next FS, what do they call it, GA now?
FSGA, yeah.
That's in Vegas, so I'll owe you there. I'll take care of it there.
Ooh, where's Daddy going to eat? I don't know, but I'll tell you what, no breakfast or lunch for me. No buffet that day.
Anyway, so those are our totals for the NFL. If you want to go back and watch our AFC live stream, it's available over at Wager Alarm. And, of course, thank you guys so much for watching. Next week, Howard and I will be back on Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday, what we'll do is we'll do some NFL futures. We'll take a look at some coaches on the hot seat. We'll take a look at the NFL MVP, also odds to win the division, some different player props, which are now starting to pop out and come out. In addition to that, Howard and I will take our first look at college football spreads for week 0, they're calling it. I don't know why, but they're calling it week 0. There are 2 games opening weekend, and so we'll have the spreads there. And then our first pick, our actual pick of our live streams on the football season will be 1 week from tonight on Friday night. So, Howard, I look forward to doing it then.
I do as well. Craig, do you want to give me some odds on Coke Zero being the official sponsor of week 0 in college football?
35%.
I can take that. All right. That's going to do it for us here at the Wager Alarm live stream. Big thanks to Matthew Sells, our producer today. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. This has been Wager Alarm, and we'll catch you next time.